Good evening and welcome to this new edition. The headlines coming up on this Wednesday, November 4, 2015 editions. The head of state, Ismail Omar Guelleh, inaugurates the 2015 African and International Islamic Banking Summit. Dozens die in South Sudan plane crash. Thank you for joining us here on RTD. Djibouti will remain during 48 hours the capital of the African finance since it's going to shelter two important conferences, the Conference of Ministers of Finance and COMESA advanced governor countries, which will open tomorrow in Djibouti, and the African Islamic Finance Conference, which is opened today.
The Republic of Djibouti has hosted today the 4th African Conference of Islamic Finance. This 2 days conference opened in the presence of the President of the Republic, Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. This African Conference of Islamic Finance is sponsored by the President of the Republic, who officially opened the conference along with the First Lady, Madame Khadra Mohammed Haid. Greeted at their arrival by the Governor of the Central Bank of Djibouti, the opening ceremony has seen the participations of members of the government, the parliamentary, many representatives of Islamic banks, as well as businessmen.
Indeed, this conference has as its main objective to reinforce the growing demand in service financial Islamic product, which according to analysis of the world of finance present the possibilities for expansion of the financial intermediation. Indeed, the government of Djibouti has implemented a legal framework for promoting the development of a system of Islamic finance in the country to create important contributions in the mobilization of savings and financial inclusion. It should be noted that currently the Islamic banks hold between 15% and 20% of the market in Djibouti. This allows strengthening the ambitions of financial places under regional of Djibouti. Has also stated out of the 10 banks in the country, 4 of them are Islamics.
The Director of Islamic World has pointed out in his speech the goal of this 4th African Conference of Islamic Finance. He also recalled that the banking institutions practicing the Islamic finance are also valuable partners for the government in facing the economic and establishments of the inclusive financial industry.
My presentation really is a very vast topic, and I will not be able to cover all the key issues facing Islamic finance and also Islamic banking. Therefore, I will briefly limit my remarks to the 4 or 5 key issues that I consider to be really the challenges the industry is facing. To give a broader context of my discussion before I start my presentation, Islamic finance has been growing very fast for the last 40 years. When I say Islamic banking and Islamic finance, we are talking about the modern Islamic banking and finance.
I would like to, and the two earlier keynote speakers have alluded into the global financial system and the economies, and one reason why we have to be so mindful about the global what's happened, that Islamic finance, although alhamdulillah has emerged as one of the alternate finance or as one of the growing finance alternative in the world globally, but still it has strong interlinkages with the global financial system. Some such as mentioned, and I think it's sometimes overplayed, but also the likelihood of US raising the interest rate. Unfortunately, because of the size of Islamic finance, which is around about 2.2 trillion at the moment, which is, if you see globally, it's a very small percentage, but it's growing.
On his side, the governor of the central bank, Mr. Ahmed Usman Ali, has pleased emphasize on the performance of African economies. Mr. Ahmed Usman has underlined the enormous potential of the Islamic finance to play a more important role in order to support the funding shortfalls in Africa while improving the rate of financial inclusion in the region. Let's listen to him.
The Republic of Djibouti, in addition to be conveniently located in geostrategic terms, the more close to the most important international sea lanes, also happen to be the hyphen between the Middle East and Africa, with a population very cosmopolitan and in Muslims majority. It is very natural that Djibouti aspires to position themselves as a space of relay and bursting of the Islamic finance in African soil. Djibouti, along with his African peers, abound in addition many strengths and untapped potentiality which are only asking to be expressed and valued by investors. Also attract more Islamic financial institutions and capture a substantial share of the substantial assets drained in a strategy based on a healthy partnership winner and winner. Distinguished guests, our country has passed internal economy at the beginning of 2000 thanks to the vision and leadership of the head of state, Excellence Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh. The dynamic of growth engaged since when is being consolidated year after year. After an average 4% in the past few years, the growth of the GDP Djibouti reached 6% currently, scoped especially by the massive investment in promising area, the dynamism of the transport chain and the boom in the construction sector. The share of investment in GDP is located at more than 14% in 2013 and 2014. Also, the investments already completed and those currently in progress in the transport chain will continue to fuel the growth of our economy, which according to our forecast will remain at 7% on the horizon 2019. The financial sector Djibouti has also experienced a rapid development during this last decade, taking advantage of the economic context favorable and a business environment revitalized. This sector, which is particularly intensified at TH from 2009 onwards with the arrival and the implementation important to operator, account today 31 financial institutions whose 10 banks for a population of a little less than 1 million inhabitants. The solid performances of the banking sectors are also attributable to the development of Islamic finance in our country, who, after a beginning of adaptation and learning of the clientele, is witnessing a strong growth since 2006, offering for the moment of financial products such as the basic Murabaha, the Musharaka and Mudaraba. The Islamic banks operating in Djibouti see their activities grow rapidly, so their market share. Thus, in terms of which the assets of Islamic banks reach 15 billion francs Djibouti today and represent 16% of the banking assets total against only 1.5% in 2006. The deposits collected by these banks in annual growth of 20% currently represent 13.2% of the total banking. This solid performance of our financial system are not the result of chance, but stem from a wise policy of our authorities and our overall strategy to maintain our country in a trajectory of economic and social progress. Also, in order to preserve the gains and strengthen the outreach of our financial center, the central bank opens without release to improve the framework and the environment of the financial activities, while strengthening the regulation of the sector in a concern for sustainability and viability.
In his speech on sidelines of this event, the head of state has situated the actual Islamic Bank Summit into the international financial system context. Let's listen to the head of state.
It's indeed a great honor for the Republic of Djibouti to host for the consecutive time the African Annual Summit on Islamic Finance. It's also a real pleasure for me to welcome you once again in Djibouti for this meeting that highlight the Islamic finance wide range of principles and values as well as its opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, although Islamic finance and its benefits do not need to be demonstrated, the world of finance, like your Western friend has, the well-known quote of Comte Sponville, say a lot about moral and capitalism. It's rather the Quran who must be reread again, because if the bankers greedy for profitability on bottom clean had respected a little the Sharia, we would not be in this position. The magnitude and severity of systematic crisis formerly caused by the shortcoming in the regulation of the funded classic and the speculation have highlighted the virtues of the Islamic finance to the exponential progression. Estimated to be near 2,000 billion US dollar throughout the world, the Islamic finance gaining ground and is experiencing a rapid growth of the order of 17% per year. However, its presence in Africa is still very timid. The assets assigned to the continent are estimated between 1 and 2%, depending on the sources, whereas the continent concentrated half of the 1.6 billion Muslims that account our planet. Africa, which account also 10 of the countries whose economy is the fastest growing in the world, constitute a formidable pool of consumers and to attract more and more international investment. Both its economic potential are real. That's why we are convinced that the Islamic finance can play a catalytic role in the mobilization of financial resources in Africa, thus allowing economic growth and sustainable development. Indeed, it's estimated that the region has need of nearly 93 billion US dollar to finance large infrastructure projects and production, while budget deficit also require additional resources. In the same time, 2 billion adults remain excluded from the banking system on a global scale, and the sub-Saharan Africa alone accounts 17% of adults not banked on the planet.
Continuing, the head of state in his speech has put on spot the ongoing regional integration of the African continent and the flourishing opportunities offered with the Islamic financing banking.
Ladies and gentlemen, just as the Islamic finance, the Republic of Djibouti is a young country, dynamic and growing. Its economic performance is high and has strengthened over the past few years to reach 6% in 2014, and the same performance is expected at the end of this exercise. In effect, over the past 10 years, the numbers of banks is passed of 2 institutions to 10, of which 3 are Islamic 3. These last few are now an integral part of the economic landscape, and the country's financial, their cultural proximity, and their willingness to accompany the productive sectors have enabled them to capture 16% of the assets of the banking sector in a few years of activity. In order to sit down and to consolidate the expansion of the radiation of our financial establishment, we pay particular attention to the revision and updating of regulatory texts under the responsibility of the central bank, who sleep on the fundamentals and the ratio while guaranteeing the free convertibility of our currency and the freedom of capital movement. Just recently, we have completed this device by the creation of a national committee of the Sharia, which is composed of experts in Islamic law and in finance, responsible for ensuring on the regularity and conformity with the Sharia of financial products in Islamic Republic of Djibouti. We expect also create a training center in order to strengthen the technical capacity of our practitioners of the Islamic finance, and with which the radiation can extend to the sub-region, the objective being to work that Djibouti become truly the African center of Islamic finance. Already, Djibouti is the junction point and intervene the maritime transport, road, rail, and air to serve the commercial trade in the Horn of Africa with the region of the Middle East and Asia. To strengthen this position, we have decided to invest more than 12 billion US dollars, which by successive waves will of Djibouti a vast logistical platform encompassing this is from Africa to the means of 4 new ports, 2 new rail lines, 2 new airports, and 2 new interconnection with Ethiopia on the water and electricity, and a pipeline from Djibouti to the South Sudan. Many of the means and major shipyards whose delivery is imminent. In the margin of all these achievements and efforts, my government and myself are aware, concerned and determined to support those of our fellow citizens who remain trapped in poverty and social exclusion. The main issues and challenges are then to provide rapid response and appropriate to the following issues: the financing of a small and medium enterprise, main provider of jobs and creation of wealth, the technical expertise and the intermediation necessary to raising funds, public or private development of sukuk, the financial inclusion of the poorest, especially microfinance, and the financing of very small businesses, without forgetting the promotion of female entrepreneurship. Furthermore, in favor of the most disadvantaged, the centralized management of funds mobilized under the Zakat, Sadaqah, Qadr al-Hasan, and Waqf, coupled to the interest of the financial institution Islamic, would allow to provide a conducive environment and effective at the financing of income-generating activities. Ladies and gentlemen, we expect a lot from this forum, and for my part, I remain convinced that your thoughts and your fruitful exchanges will bring the proper answers to all of these problematic, for that the Islamic finance can find the places that is the Siena and radiate in Africa. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for your participation, and I now officially declare the Islamic Finance Summit open.
Another news: following the huge demonstration in support of the head of state, Ismail Margele, pleading him to continue its action as the head of the country, the Prime Minister Abdul Qadir Kabil Mohammed did not fail to thank all the population who came and expressed their infinite support for the 2015 Wallen presidency.
The impressive rally of November the 1st, 2015 had filled us, said the Prime Minister, with a great emotions. I am thanking you deeply for the joy that you have aroused in us. We have seen an unprecedented human tide which has swept across the road from Venice Road to the People's Palace from all sides, and screaming EOG remains with us. This extraordinary demonstration of gladness shows clearly that women and men, young or old, from the social classes confused, you are all thankful for that the head of state has done for our country and our nation, has pointed out Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed. The testimony, which has been expressed by a large part of the people who came from all sides, has greatly exceeded expectations. Indeed, I have never seen in this day popular group, the actors of civil society and the various trades, to associate itself largely to the movements people of Djibouti without making any reference to a political party. You have come to ask the leaderships. The Prime Minister finally said that our message has been a very strong one. I am sure that the President of the Republic has heard your wishes and your thought. The plea of the people wishing the head of state, Mr. Ismail Margele, running from presidency in 2016 is still continuing.
Indeed, is an interview granted to the national television. The father of the other peak director, Mr. Ismail Abdu Al-Qamihi, has expressed his support for the candidacy of the president for a new mandate. Al-Qamihi affirmed the importance of project development that have been realized during the past 15 years under the leadership of the head of state, Ismail Margele. He added that the President of the Republic is the guarantor of the peace and prosperity of our country. Still on national news, an information meeting and preparation for a possible disaster organized by the Ministry of the Interior and the Executive Secretariat for the Management of the Disaster has been held today in the Ministry of the Interior.
Indeed, this meeting brought together several senior executives from the government, including the Minister of Interior, Mr. Hassan Umar, the Mayor of the City of Djibouti, Mr. Hussein Abdullahi, the Prefect of the City of Djibouti, and Director General of National Agency for Meteorology, Mr. Osman Saad Said. The objective of this meeting was to be prepared against a climate change phenomenon on the damage they can cause the populations and the infrastructure of the country. This phenomenon, called Chapala, is a tropical cyclone. It will be changed the wine field, and its clouding residents will strengthen the maritime interiors and will make precipitation of a trendy rains for today. The Djiboutian government will take all the necessary measures needed, the Minister of Interior said. In substance, the El Niño phenomenon will be intensify in the coming months, and this might have a huge impact on the local populations of the country and the infrastructure. That is the main reason why our gathering is important today. The preparation should be on a three level: increasing the capacity of foresting, to follow through the ongoing situation, and to be ready for any kind of a situation and to be prepared for it. From this day on, any of department in the regions too will be ready. But we will hear with more details in our international news. The Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture issued a statement that he will take part to the 9th Culture Minister Islamic Conference on the ISCO in Moscow. The Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture, Aden Hassan Aden, will take part in the work of the 9th Islamic Conference of Culture Minister, which will be held in Moscow in the Sultanate of Oman from November 2 and 4 under the theme for a middle way culture further the Islamic society's development.
On the margin of this conference, the minister will meet with his Ommani counterpart, Sayyid Haytham bin Tariq Al Saeed, Minister of Heritage and Culture, where they have examined the possibility of strengthening bilateral relations. He will also meet with the Secretary General of the Islamic Cooperation Organization, Mr. Iyad Amin, with whom he will exchange ideas on ways to develop cooperation with the OIC in the cultural field. This conference is jointly organized by the Islamic Organization for Education, Science and Culture, known as ISISCO, and the Department of Heritage and Culture and the Sultanate of Oman, in coordination with the General Secretary of the OIC. Several ministers of culture of the member state of the OIC participate in this meeting, as well as experts and a representative of Arab Islamic International Organization concerned with culture. The conference will develop this concept by adopting it as one of the methodological elements of joint Islamic action, as to add that the correlation between these two means of a global civilization renaissance, that are the culture and development, is necessary to the adoption of this scientific method, indispensable to the activation and the promotion of cultural action. Culture of fair middle is necessary, a culture of development which helps to build a healthy mind and rational behavior based on knowledge rooted in the local environment, open on the modern times and adapted to human culture contemporary. From this perspective, it becomes a culture of construction and of prosperity, and for the Islamic world, a culture faithful to the values of a tolerant Islam, at its human civilization, to its centuries-long history, as to the high abundance of his knowledge. Dr. Abdul Aziz Al-Wajri stated that the culture of fair middle opens to intellectual developments, moral and spiritual of the human being, and as such is opposed to extremism and fanatism. Health now. The Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Issa Osman, has carried out this morning an inspection visit to the people who has been operated at Balbala and Al-Rahma Hospital, thanks to the Kuwaiti medical caravan who stayed currently in the Republic of Djibouti. The Minister of Health was in a company by his close associate, as well as the Regional Director of the African Committee of Relief of the Kuwait State, Mr. Abdul Wani Al-Quraishi, the Director of Peltier Hospital, Mr. Jamal Miyabi.
Indeed, this caravan, which is the second of its kind, is composed of 32 physicians and nurses from the state of Kuwait, which will perform 400 surgical operations until tomorrow, November 5, 2015. This caravan is organized by the Minister of Health in close collaboration with the Association of Direct Aid from Kuwait and Al-Rahma Hospital in Djibouti. The Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Issa Osman, began his visit on Balbala Hospital, where he was greeted by the General Director of the hospital, Mr. Maidian. The Minister has made the tour of the patients who benefit during the last 4 days from the different surgical operations led by the specialists of Kuwaiti State Association. The leaders of the caravan has explained to the minister the seconds of a surgical operation free. The last step of the visit of Minister of Health was Al-Rahma Hospital, where it was allowed by the Regional Director of African Committee of the Relief, Mr. Abdel Kani, and the top responsible for this health structure. The minister and his delegation has visited the various rooms of surgical operations of Al-Rahma Hospital. Let's recall that the ambassador of Djibouti in Kuwait has coordinated this medical caravan with the support of his Kuwait counterpart to Djibouti, Darwish Free. In an interview given to the national television, the head of the medical team associations from the state of Kuwait, Dr. Hisham, has expressed its satisfaction for the proper conduct of the medical caravan activities, which starts since last October 31 in health service areas.
In his address, the Health Minister, Dr. Qasim Isaq Osman, indicated that this humanitarian gesture reflects the excellence and relationships of bilateral cooperation which exists between the Republic of Djibouti and the State of Kuwait in the health field. Yesterday, I have visited the Apelti Hospital, and today I'm visiting a Balbala Hospital where ophthalmological interventions take place, and now we are at Ar-Rahma. Intervention take place in very good conditions. We are happy of this collaboration with Ar-Rahma Hospital. Let's go now to the interior region. The construction of the road Tajura Balho is advancing with giant steps.
And it is in this context that the Minister of Equipment and Transport Musa Ahmed Hassan, accompanied by a large delegation including the Prefect of Tajora's region Abdul Malik Mohammed Banoita and General Director of Djiboutian Roads Agency Mr. Mohamed Musa Ahmed, visit Monday this area to see work advancements of these main axes connecting the north of Djibouti to Ethiopia. In their arrival, the minister and his delegation were welcomed by the inhabitants of Balho and surrounding communities such as Dora under the tributes, applause and traditional dances. The construction of the road Tajora Balho is in its final phase since the logistical and human resources that have been strengthening with the arrival a few weeks ago of a new German company known as Harrow. This company has the strengthening of the work led by the company Al-Karafi. The minister and his delegation have made also a brief visit of the premises of the live bases of the German company Harrow, which is installed a dozen kilometers of border post of Balho with Ethiopia.
Given that it's now to finalize the construction of this access road of a major importance for the economic of the regions of the north and improve the conditions and mode of life for population from the north, the construction of the road is soon to be completed. It's no more than a portion of 32 kilometers of Dora to Balho, and it's the Harrow company that will have the charge. Elsewhere, the work of this portion of the road have been officially launched by the Ministry of Equipment and Transport with the cut of the traditional ribbon. In Dakhil now, the caravan animation of the State Secretary of Youth and Sport has organized last night in Obok region a lively evening, enabling the Okas to celebrate the National Week African Youth. This desire to offer the youth of the region a free concert emanates from the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Badul Hassan Badul, which puts a point of honor to be present in each of these evenings dedicated to youth.
Regarding the evening Dakhil, it is the Minister of Housing, Planning and Environment, Mr. Mohammed Musa Ibrahim Balala, and the Secretary of State for National Solidarity, Ms. Zahra Yusuf Qayat, have accompanied the State of Secretary for Youth and Sport, and according to him, who says government action says government solidarity. They were welcomed by the Prefect Sheikh Hassan, the President of the Regional Council Abdurrahman Yunis, and PM of the regions. After reading a Quran verse, it is a national anthem, is sung in the chorus that in both national language. Then government delegation, local politicians and occurs plunge in a festive and friendly atmosphere provided by the young talents of the first editions, who prepare new compositions inspired by beat to the traditional rhythms of the Hella and Haile. The official speech followed to the highlight government actions. A few months of the presidential election, Mr. Badul and his colleague back to the great achievement of the President of the Republic since he came to the office. In Oboh now, as part of the celebrations of National and African Youth Week, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Badul Hassan Badul, has organized last night in Oboh region a lively evening hosted by the young talents of the first editions. On this occasion, the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Badul Hassan Badul, the Minister of Health, Dr. Qasim Mensah Usman, the Prefect of Oboh region and representative of the Regional Council took part at this ceremony.
Effectively, the ceremony was opened by the national anthem. In his turn, the Prefect has wished warm welcome to the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, and he did not fail during his speech to express his appreciation to the Secretary of State, whom that multiplied the activities for the youth. For his part, the Secretary of State, after thanking the Prefect and representative of the Regional Council for the warm welcome that was reserved to him and his delegation, he recalled that these cultural or sport activities allow the bloom of our youth. He continued by adding that his department, in accordance with the enlightened vision of the head of state, Ismail Omar Gili, diversified action for youth to flourish Djiboutian youth at the sport and cultural level. The evening was closed by the songs of young talent. Obituary to finish with the national news. We have learned with sudden and consternation the sudden death of the late Ibrahim Ahmed Mana, a man who loves his family, his fellow man, and his country. Independence activist of the first hour, he became well known since 1950 in the union, sporting, and cultural community. Fire Ibrahim died at the age of 85 years on November the 1st, 2015 at 4 a.m. to the Peltier Hospital. Following a renal insufficiency, he was retired and has done his entire career at Caltex, who had become now total. He was a man who loved his country with passion. He was district known and appreciated by all. A father of 7 children, he loved his 4 small children. The man was always available to laugh. He loved life, the friendship, and the sharing. He was an Epicurean. He was the father of our former General Secretary and currently advisor to the Premier Minister Mohammed Ibrahim. On learning the sudden death of the prominent personality, the Directorate General Staff of the RTD expressed its sincere condolences to the family and friends of the deceased. May the Almighty grant him his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Let's move on now to the regional scene. Chapala tropical cyclone is the first hurricane-force tropical cyclone in more than 30 years to land in Yemen. The storms wreaked havoc of the Yemeni islands struck Sunday before striking the mainland coast early Tuesday near Al-Mukalla, a port says last spring by Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Let's hear for more details.
Ravaged by months of war, Yemen has now been battered by the first tropical storm on record to make landfall in the impoverished Arab country. Tropical cyclone Chapala slammed into Yemen's central coast early Tuesday, lashing the area with maximum sustained wind. But the major concern is the extraordinary volume of rain the storm system is expected to dump on the country's dry, rugged terrain, bringing a severe threat of mudslides. Yemen typically gets around 100 millimeters of rain per year. Chapala was forecast to unleash 2 to 3 times that amount in the space of just one day. Most of the storm that brew in the Indian Ocean end up in the Bay of Bengal on the eastern side of the Indian subcontinent. Those that do make their ways across the Arabian Sea are more likely to hit Oman, which lies to the north and east of Yemen. Chapala already brushed past Socotra, a Yemeni island in the Arabian Sea where 60 to 65,000 people live. Abdul Jamil Mohammed, Deputy Director of the Environmental Protection Authority on the island, reported strong winds, heavy rains and big waves overnight into Monday. Mohammed said the storm damaged some homes and uprooted trees in Hadibo, the capital of Socotra. Contact has been lost with the northeastern part of the island since Sunday night, and floods covered the road.
Still in the regional scene, a Russian cargo plane with passengers on board has crashed on takeoff at the main airport in Juba, the capital of South Sudan. Saeed Mohammed has more.
Russian-built cargo plane with passengers on board crashed after taking off from the airport of South Sudan's capital, killing at least 41 people on board and on the ground, said the airport officials. A crew member and a child on board survived. Presidential spokesman Ateni Wek Ateni said shortly after taking off from Juba's airport on Wednesday, the plane came down on the bank of the White Nile River, leaving a tail fin and lump of fuselage strewn in vegetation closer to water. Bad weather was hampering the rescue effort, said. It was raining hard here in Juba, making it difficult to look for more victims. The cargo plane was carrying passengers and it is believed that many of them were not wearing seatbelts. The plane may have had about 20 people on board, including crew and probably 10 to 15 passengers, Ateni said, but added, we need to confirm how many people were on board. A police officer who did not give his name because he was not authorized to speak to the media said the scene there were at least 41 people who died. The number could climb. South Sudanese media had said the cargo plane carried 5 Russian crew and 7 passengers. South Sudan Tribune on Twitter also reported 2 survivors, one of them a child.
And now on the continental scene, Shell is accused of lying over Nigeria oil spill cleanup. The oil company is accused of making false claims about the extent of cleanup operations in order to do more for those affected. Let's listen to this comment.
Shell had been accused of making false claims about the extent of its oil spill cleanup operation in Nigeria and urged to take more actions to help worst hit communities. Amnesty International and the Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development charged the oil major with failing to implement recommendation from a critical 2012 UN report. The 38-page document said most of the recommendation of a UN Environment Program report that had not been implemented since the publication 5 years ago. 13 out of 50 areas visited between July and September this year were still visibly polluted or contaminated despite claims to the contrary by Shell and the government. The inadequate cleanup left thousands of people exposed to the contaminated land, water and air, in some cases for years or even decades, say Amnesty researcher Mark Dummett. The Shell Petroleum Company Development of Nigeria said it rejected the group claim. It had initiated actions on all the recommendations addressed directly to it. We disagree with the assertion made with regard to implementation and would like to reiterate that we have consistently and publicly reported our action in this regard, as well as highlighted the ongoing challenges of crude oil theft and illegal refining.
That's all for tonight's news. Thank you for your attention and have a great evening.